The movie begins with a montage of a beautiful island with beautiful jazz music being played by a young, attractive girl, Nora, a young girl from Chicago, performing in front of Manuel Alvarez, the most powerful business tycoon on the island. Impressed with her performance, Manuel offers her a job at his club to perform exclusively for him, and in return he offers to pay her 3 times what she makes in Chicago. Nora is flattered, and she wonders about his proposition while Akeem, a bartender who has been working for Manuel for 2 months, accidentally spills a glass of wine on her clothes. Akeem quickly apologizes and Nora tells him it's not his fault, but an arrogant and condescending Manuel slits the throat of Akeem, demonstrating his brutal show of force and making a statement on his zero tolerance for mistakes. Nora, left with no choice after what she saw happen to Akeem, agrees with Manuel's proposition. Back in LAPD officer Mark Etheridge and his chatty partner Phil are on an undercover mission engaging with some drug dealers. The mission was a success, and they made a successful drug bust. While Mark is making a joke about his partner, he gets a call from his hometown. It's about his younger brother, Akeem. Mark drowns in sorrow. It's revealed that Akeem and Mark grew up together since their parents migrated to the island. The two were very close right up until a personal tragedy caused Mark to move to LA 7 years ago. The reason Mark left the island was the pain of losing his unborn daughter, while he was married to his ex-wife, Akila. Now he has to go back to his home for an unfortunate reason. Mark comes back to the island and attends the funeral of Akeem. After the funeral, he has a heart-to-heart with his mother, Yvonne. They reminisce about Akeem while going through his stuff. Mark asks his mother about what happened, and she tells him his brother was doing well and staying out of trouble. Mark sounds surprised when she says trouble, since he knows the island to be a peaceful place. She informs him that things have not been the same on the island since he left. Mark promises Yvonne to find out who did this to his brother, but in the wake of losing one son, Yvonne begs Mark not to do anything bad. He calms her down, promising everything will be alright. Next, Mark goes to meet his old friend and chief police on the island, Nate Wayland. Mark asks Nate if he has any leads on the investigation of his brother's death, but Nate can't give him anything concrete except his suspicion that it might have something to do with gangs on the island. Mark asks about the gangs with surprise. Nate reveals to him that since the gangs have arrived from the neighboring islands, the rate of crimes committed has increased and drugs are brought into the island by these gangs. He asks Mark to be patient, telling him that the station doesn't have resources like the ones Nate is used to in Los Angeles. On the same day, Mark visits his Akila, who's been running a dojo for the island kids for the past 3 years. After speaking with each other about their past, Akila informs him about the situation on the island. She tells him that the island has been infected with increasing drug-related crimes brought by neighboring islands, and that Manuel Alvarez practically owns the island, since he has ownership of the banks, hotels, and construction, giving him a monopoly over the island's entire economy. Akila tells Mark not to put his hopes on Nate's investigation because people won't cooperate out of fear for Manuel. She also reveals her suspicion that Manuel has some relation with the gangs as they avoid hitting the businesses he owns. Before Mark leaves, Akila tells him that his brother started working for Manuel at his club 2 months ago. Mark then goes to confront Manuel at the club. They have a heated exchange, revealing one has done their homework. Manuel then calms down. After denying involvement with Akeem's death, he gives him an address where the gang hangs out, to seem to cooperate regarding Akeem. But it was a setup. Right after Mark leaves, he makes an arrangement with the North Gang members at the club to have Mark taken care of. Having a feeling that his visit to the club wasn't a pleasant one, Mark meets with his old friend, Tayshawn, who stashed Mark's guns and ammunition some time ago. He arms himself and goes to the club. After arriving at the club, he starts asking questions about the death of his brother. The gang members try to dismiss and intimidate him, but he easily knocks out each one of them. However, Manuel has also sent hit squads, who ride motorbikes. They arrive at the club and start shooting at Mark, but he somehow escapes. After seeing that Mark has escaped them, they visit Yvonne's house in an effort to draw him out. They arrive at the house and start shooting up the place, but they find it empty. Mark has already sent his mother to Akila's place. Nate arrives at the bar first and then goes to check Yvonne's house after receiving reports of gunfire at both places. Mark meets Nate at Yvonne's house and asks him to help for the sake of the island. Nate then suggests that he speak to Nora, claiming she might have information about Akeem's death, and gives him her address. Mark then goes to visit Nora, who's been under house arrest on the island, with Manuel assigning a dealer who supplies her with dope and ensures that she's always high. But Nora was able to trick the dealer by pretending to be high and damping the drugs. She's been clean for a while. She's reluctant to speak with Mark at first, but she confesses everything she saw happen to Mark after he promised to get her off the island. Now Mark's suspicion was confirmed. As promised, he entrusts Nate with Nora's safety and asks his partner Phil to arrange a safe house for her in Miami. Before taking Nora to safety, Nate asks Mark to entertain the idea of arresting Manuel and using Nora as a witness in court. But Mark argues against going to court, implying that the case won't even make it there. Meanwhile, the angry Manuel confronts the hit squad. One of the members tried to spare their life by giving him the photo of Aquila, which he picked up from her house. But the ruthless Manuel kills all the members of the hit squad mercilessly. Then he calls for reinforcements from his associates in the Colombian cartel. Armed with submachine guns, the cartel's men search Aquila's dojo first, but when they find it empty, they proceed to attack her house. Mark had already arrived at the house and told Yvonne about how her son was killed. Yvonne breaks down, and they take her to the house to console her. Mark sees the men with their car and alerts Aquila and his mother. After arming himself and Aquila, he leads them through the back of the house and into the forest. The cartel's men followed them. Mark and Aquila engage in a gunfight and manage to shoot and kill two of the cartel's men. While the cartel's men are escaping, they engage in a shootout with Nate, who came to the house after receiving a message from Mark, but they manage to escape. Nate calls Mark and they set a rendezvous point after Mark informs him of their safety. Manuel, on the other hand, goes to search for Nora, with the drug dealer in the room she used to stay in. He finds the house empty. Then he murders the dealer after seeing empty bags of coke, thinking he didn't supply her well. Now, with the only witness who can link him to the murders gone, Manuel is getting desperate as he stands to lose everything. He orders his right-hand man to do whatever it takes to end this investigation. Back at the police station, Nate arranges all the evidence he has at his disposal. Realizing he might not live to see how things end, he entrusts all the evidence he has to a priest at the local church. Mark goes to Tassim, planning to leave Yvonne and Aquila with his childhood friend. But contrary to his plan, Aquila refuses to stay with Tashawn. She firmly expresses her desire to fight for the island, and they leave together. On the same night, Nate arrives to meet Mark at the rendezvous, but Nate is badly beaten and on the verge of death. Alvarez's right-hand man and the cartel operatives were tracking Nate. While Mark was hung up on his dying friend, they opened fire and engaged in a brief shootout. This time, their tactic works, and they end up abducting Aquila. A devastated Mark holds Nate in his final moments and consoles him by reminding him of fun childhood memories of Nate, Akeem, and himself. The next morning, an angry Mark goes to the church and tells them that Manuel has kidnapped Aquila and killed Nate, their chief of police. He asks for their information regarding the location of his wife. This, in turn, riles up the community. After the service is complete, the priest of the church gives Mark an envelope that contains Nate's evidence and research, including an ongoing money laundering case file against Manuel Alvarez. Mark then goes to the police and declares to the policemen working there that he's assigned himself to be acting chief of police. He gives them an assignment to get word out to the whole island that he'll be waiting for Manuel at the station, and while he's examining Nate's evidence, he's unexpectedly joined by his partner Phil, who had decided to help him face Alvarez. As luck would have it, two island kids spot the right hand of Manuel at an old abandoned hotel. They inform Mark about it, and he realizes it's the most ideal place to hold Aquila. That night, Alvarez gets a phone call from Manuel and proposes to trade Aquila for Nora. Mark agrees and they set a meeting spot. He then calls Phil and tells him to assemble a team and rescue Aquila while he goes to meet Manuel. The next day, Mark goes to meet Manuel at the place they agreed. He was in communication with Phil. He stalls Miguel long enough for Phil and his team to rescue Aquila. He then gets confirmation from Phil telling him that Aquila was safe, which prompts him to tell Miguel that he's defeated and all of his men are dead. After realizing that he's left alone, Manuel orders his right-hand man to kill Mark. But Mark quickly disables his gun and knocks him to the ground. As the man was about to shoot Mark in the back, Tayshawn, who's now accompanied by most of the village with guns, shot and killed the man. Tayshawn wants to shoot Manuel, but Mark proposes a duel between the two of them. They engage in physical combat. Mark uses his hand-to-hand combat skills while Manuel uses his knife to try to stab him. Mark defeats him in a humiliating manner and proceeds to stab him to death in the same manner he previously killed his brother. The island is now free from the clutches of Manuel and his evil empire. Finally, Mark and Aquila are now sitting on a beach and enjoying themselves. Mark puts a ring on Aquila's finger, signifying that they're back together. The movie ends with Mark and Aquila laughing at Phil's funny antics.